All right, let's get ready for a deep dive into Exodus chapter 37.
Sounds good.
This chapter is all about the construction of the tabernacle
Right.
and all the sacred objects inside.
Yeah.
It was all done under the leadership of a skilled craftsman named Bezalel.
And it's fascinating because we're not just talking about building a tent here.
Right.
We're talking about a portable sanctuary for the Israelites.
Oh, wow.
This was the place where they would connect with God,
I see.
where they would experience his presence.
That makes sense.
We're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat,
Okay.
the table for the showbread, the lampstand. All these objects had deep spiritual meaning for them.
So they weren't just functional items.
Exactly. They were symbols of God's covenant with his people.
So Exodus 37 kind of walks us through this whole building process.
It does.
Bezalel, following God's instructions,
It's to the law of left.
using materials like acacia wood and pure gold, and the level of detail, the craftsmanship, it's just incredible.
Oh, absolutely. It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Imagine that dedication
I know, right?
to get every detail just right.
Yeah.
And some of these details are just stunning.
Like what?
Well, take the Ark of the Covenant, for example.
Okay.
It had 2 cherubim on top,
Oh, yeah, I remember.
made from a single piece of gold,
Wow.
wings outstretched as if guarding some sacred secret.
It's like a snapshot in time, you know? You can almost picture Bezalel and his team working on these pieces.
Yeah, and the artistry and devotion.
It's inspiring, really.
It really is.
It is.
And speaking of artistry, the lampstand.
Oh, yeah.
That's another masterpiece.
Tell me about it.
7 lamps, all hammered from pure gold,
Wow.
intricately designed with almond blossoms, buds, and bowls.
They didn't skimp on the details, that's for sure.
No, they didn't.
And, you know, the use of pure gold wasn't just about aesthetics.
Really?
It pointed to the sacred value of these objects.
I see.
It's a reminder that even back then,
Yeah.
people understood the power of beauty
Right.
and craftsmanship to elevate the human spirit.
That's a good point.
It is.
So how does all of this ancient craftsmanship connect with our lives today?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
I think one thing that jumps out is the theme of faithfulness.
Okay, how so?
Bezel's commitment to following God's instructions.
Right?
His dedication to getting every detail right.
Yeah.
That's inspiring, don't you think?
It really is.
Yeah.
It makes you think about our own lives,
It does.
our own work.
What are we building, right?
Yeah. What are we building? And are we putting that same level of care and attention into it?
Exactly. And it's not just about blind obedience either.
Okay.
Bezel's faithfulness was about understanding the deeper purpose behind his work.
I see.
He saw himself as a vessel carrying out a divine vision,
Wow, that's powerful.
isn't it?
So it's about finding that sense of purpose in our own work,
Yeah,
that connection to something bigger than ourselves.
absolutely.
It's about bringing that same level of intentionality and devotion,
to everything we do.
yeah, even in the smallest of tasks.
Right. Exactly. And that's something we can all strive for, no matter what our craft might be.
That's a good point.
It is. It's like Bezalel's faithfulness wasn't just about him, you know?
Yeah,
It makes you wonder about where his skill and creativity came from.
right.
Like Exodus tells us, God specifically chose Bezalel
Oh,
and filled him with the Spirit of God.
I see.
So he could create these incredible works of art.
So it wasn't just human skill.
Exactly.
It was divine inspiration.
Right.
Wow, so that adds like a whole new layer to our understanding of craftsmanship.
It really does.
It suggests that real craftsmanship,
Yeah.
the kind that creates lasting beauty and meaning,
Uh-huh.
it's not just about human effort.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah.
There's a spiritual dimension to it.
It's almost like tapping into like a wellspring of creativity,
Right.
something that goes beyond our own abilities.
It's a good way to put it.
So how can we do that in our own lives?
Yeah. How can we cultivate that connection
Yeah.
to something bigger than ourselves?
And where do we find that spark?
The spark of creativity.
Yes. How do we nurture that spark?
Yeah, because we often think of inspiration as fleeting.
Right, like something that just hits us out of the blue.
But what if it's something we can cultivate?
Yeah.
Something we can practice?
Be more intentional about
Be open to new possibility.
Yeah.
It makes you think, what if each of us has our own blueprint?
Our own set of values or principles.
That guide our own creative journeys.
So instead of waiting for inspiration to strike,
Uh-huh.
we should be actively seeking it out.
Right. Preparing the ground for it.
Yeah.
Creating the environment
Internally and externally.
for those moments of clarity.
So the story of Bezel
Yes.
reminds us that craftsmanship isn't just about skill.
It's about aligning ourselves with a purpose.
Seeking inspiration from a deeper source.
Exactly. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to creating something truly extraordinary.
So we've talked about Bezalel's divine inspiration and how it relates to our creative pursuits.
Right.
But there's another thing about the tabernacle we should talk about.
Okay, what's that?
The tabernacle and all its furnishings.
Yeah.
They weren't just beautiful objects.
They were deeply symbolic.
Yeah, they represented God's presence among the Israelites.
Absolutely. Each item was carefully chosen
To express specific meaning.
to tell a story about God's relationship with his people.
For example, the Ark of the Covenant
Okay.
housed the tablets of the Ten Commandments.
All right.
The most sacred object.
It symbolized God's covenant with the Israelites.
Yeah, his promise to be present among them.
And above the ark was the mercy seat,
What did that represent?
God's forgiveness and grace.
Oh, wow.
It was there on the Day of Atonement
Okay.
that the high priest would sprinkle the blood of a sacrifice.
Seeking reconciliation for the people's sins.
Exactly.
Powerful symbolism.
Isn't it? Every object tells a story.
Waiting to be uncovered.
The table for showbread, for instance,
Okay.
always had 12 loaves of bread on it.
What did that mean?
Symbolized God's provision for his people.
I see.
A reminder that God would always sustain them.
And the lampstand.
Yeah, with its 7 lamps.
That were always kept burning.
Symbolized God's light and guidance.
Pushing back the darkness.
Right.
Even the altar of incense had symbolic meaning.
Where they burned the fragrant incense
Yeah.
represented the prayers of the people.
Rising up to God.
A sweet aroma filling the sacred space.
Wow. It's amazing how much meaning is packed into every detail.
It really is.
Makes you wonder, what symbols and stories are we weaving into our own lives?
That's a great question.
What messages are we sending?
Through our actions and creations.
Our presence in the world.
If we were to build a modern-day tabernacle,
Yeah.
what would it look like? What objects would we include? What stories would they tell?
What would we hold sacred?
Exactly.
That is a great question.
It is.
I think it's something we all need to think about.
Because the meaning we find in those ancient snails is only as powerful as our willingness to apply it to our own lives.
It's not just about understanding the symbolism,
It's about creating our own symbols,
our own ritual,
our own ways of expressing what's important to us.
building a life that reflects our values and aspirations.
Exactly. Taking that ancient wisdom and translating it into a language that speaks to us today.
That's the true legacy of the tabernacle.
It's not just about the objects.
It's about the power of human creativity.
To connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And to create meaning and beauty in the world. It's like Bezalel and his team weren't just building a tabernacle.
Yeah.
They were building a blueprint for how to live a life filled with purpose, beauty, and meaning.
Absolutely. And we can all access that blueprint and build upon it in our own ways.
Okay.
But there's one more thing.
What's that?
We've talked about Bezalel's leadership,
Yes.
but we haven't really touched on all the other people who helped build the tabernacle.
Oh, right. Exodus talks about Oholiab.
And all the other skilled men and women who worked together.
It wasn't just Bezalel.
It was a collective effort.
It's a testament to the power of collaboration.
Working together for a shared purpose.
Everyone's contribution is valuable.
No matter how small.
It's like a giant puzzle
Where every piece fits together.
to create a complete and beautiful picture.
And in today's world, where we often focus on individual achievement,
Yeah.
the tabernacle reminds us that true greatness comes from working together,
From learning from each other.
pooling our talents and resources.
It's about acknowledging that we all have something to offer.
Our unique skills and perspectives matter.
When we collaborate, we achieve so much more.
Imagine if we all embrace that spirit of collaboration.
So our deep dive into Exodus 37,
Yeah.
it's not just about building objects,
It's about building communities.
recognizing everyone's contributions.
And remember, that spirit of craftsmanship,
Yeah.
it goes beyond physical objects.
Right.
It's about approaching everything we do
Our work, relationships, everything.
with that same commitment to excellence, purpose, and meaning.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is.
Thinking about Basil and the tabernacle.
Yeah.
There's a powerful lesson here about leadership.
Oh, how so?
Well, Basil wasn't just skilled, he was a leader.
Right. He inspired and guided everyone.
And it wasn't about showing off his skills.
Yeah.
It was about empowering others
To use their own talents.
to contribute to the vision.
Makes you think about the leaders we need today.
It does.
People who can inspire collaboration.
And make everyone feel valued.
So they can contribute their best.
Imagine if we all approach things that way,
Our workplaces, communities, families.
with that same shared purpose.
like building the tabernacle.
It all comes back to craftsmanship,
Not just a skill, but a way of life.
bringing that intention, care, and dedication,
To everything.
whether it's building an object or a relationship.
Or a community. Even a better future.
Beautifully said.
It is.
I think that's a great place to wrap up.
These ancient lessons from Exodus,
About craftsmanship, leadership, shared purpose.
they still matter today.
They offer a blueprint for a meaningful life.
A life of beauty connected to something bigger.
So as we end our deep dive into Exodus 37, think about how you can bring more purpose to your work.
And how to be more collaborative.
Like Bezel, use your skills.
To create something meaningful.
Something lasting.
Until next time, keep diving deep.